Amitofo, welcome to you all. And we're going to continue on with projections. This is part 3 on projections. We will start the class with a bow and a recitation of the 4 great vows. Bow. I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings. I vow to cut off endless vexations. I vow to master limitless approaches to Dharma. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. I wanted to start with the beginning, and again, we're going to go back to this book, The Mind of Chinese Chan. I don't know if you can read that or not, but it's from the master, or not master, but teacher Yi Wu. And this is just the very beginning things that we learn. But the beginning is it. We don't go nowhere else. So I want to read this case from this, and then read my ruminations on projections, and you'll see that it all fits together. So Sasan said to Weka, and Sasan was to be the 3rd patriarch. At this point, he's not a patriarch, he's just a practitioner, and he's saying to Weka, I have rheumatism, please confess the sin for me. Like, why do I have rheumatism? Why is it that some people are born and they are born blind or deaf, or that things happen to them? What is it that causes me to have rheumatism? Weka replied, show me your sin and I will confess it for you. So he's saying to him, just like what his master Dhamma said to him, show me your mind and I will silence it for you. He's saying, show me your sin. What was it that caused you to have this illness? What was the sin that was there? No, we would say karmically there was some things that would happen, but Hueca is not referring to the world of samsara. He's looking at the absolute and saying, show me, where did this sin come from? What is this? Is there a reality to it? And so Sesong said, I have looked for, but I am unable to find my sin. Weka replied, I have thus finished confessing your sin. Weka replied, I have thus, excuse me, I just read that part. But you still must rely on the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So the 3 jewels, he's telling him he needs to rely upon them. Sesong says, seeing you, I know what the Sangha is, but I'm not clear about the Buddha and the Dharma. Weka replied, this mind is the Buddha. This mind is the Dharma. They are not two. The Sangha also is this mind. Sesong then said, today I know that the nature of sin is neither inside nor outside nor in between. It is just like mind that is not separate from the Buddha and the Dharma. This reference is one to the reference to the Shurangama Sutra and Ananda's way of looking at it and trying to perceive. We're getting a little bit of a feedback here from somewhere. You got to, okay. Of trying to perceive what mind is. And this is the reference then, because when he's saying that I know that the nature of sin is neither inside nor outside nor in between, it is just like the Buddha, by the mind that is not separate from the Buddha and the Dharma. So again, it's referring to ekayana, just this mind, and it's referring to there is no inside, there is no outside. There isn't, when we talk about apparent reality and absolute reality, we neither see any kind of an inside or outside because it all appears within mind. And this is very important. This is from the very, very beginning. And what the only thing that I've been presenting to you all this time is this. So I wrote an article this morning, which you're getting the world premiere of it, and it'll go on my Mindwork forum later on. Please remind me if I don't put it on. Again, this is projections, and I'll read it to you and then elaborate on it if necessary. Projections are appearances in mind. What is the major ignorance or confusion is mistaking the illusory mind as mind. I am actually speaking to mind, not to you. The you arises, but the confusion in mind is we take it to be real. So the you arises, but we think that that's mind. But we don't understand that even that is a projection. Confess my sin, I could not find it. By the way, I wrote this today before I picked up this part that I just read to you. So it fits in naturally. So long as the mind is controlled by self, there is delusion. When mind is rested, no dust kicks up. The difference is that mind can see through even the illusion of the self. We as sentient beings believe we have vexations and desires. We believe that these belong to us. But what if those delusions do not belong to us? What if we are the delusion? So, seeking to confess the sin, there's no sin to confess. Then one has to look at mine. Will that be the end of us? Would we simply be like an inflatable person being pierced by the sword and we are deflated? Is that how it works? Is that how realizations work? That we pierce through and then the body just goes down like some inflatable commercial beam in front of a tire store or something, or a car store to sell things with, and we just lose all our air. Is it like that or isn't it? Think about this. What do you think? Do you think that that's all there is to it? And I've often said, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We don't throw mind out with the deflated person. Well, yes and no. Like Master Dao Xin wrote, now we're getting into the inconceivable portion of this discussion. Yes, the self is gone. No, the mind remains. Or should it be said, no mind remains? Function remains, and personality remains without vexations or desires. And I see that my most senior student, Rick Cabrera, is here today. Welcome, Rick. And that was one thing that Rick really understood right from the very beginning is function. And we take away and strip off the idea of an ego or personality or life or being, but there's still function there. there's still an interest in this world. There's still an interest in suffering. So something remains, and I shouldn't say a thing because it's not a thing. It is that mind has never left. It's always been mind. We don't know that from the side. We can't know it. We don't know what mind is. Function in the transcendent wisdom that no self remains, yet self nature remains. Oh. All right, press the button here. Thought I lost you guys. Okay. We cannot know mind, yet mind knows us. You have to think about this. What's being said, don't just listen to it, penetrate it. We cannot know mind. If you try to know mind, how can you know mind? Your range of reality is so limited. Your memory is so limited. Your ability to traverse mind is a very narrow wave band. But mind knows you, always knows that as I know my hand, mind knows you. In complete enlightenment, mind knows mind. Thus, mind knows all appearances of ego. Selves are just dreams or illusion of mind. So the idea of an ego is just a dream. It's an illusion of this mind. The skill is in the mind knowing that the mind is dreaming. And that ego, personality, life, or being is a dream self. You have to really pay attention to this. Try to absorb it or allow it to absorb you. That this very mind right now, as it is a projection, is a dream. But mind remains. That's the point. Mind remains. This is a part that the illusory ego, is so strong that it finds a way of clouding the mind or tricking the mind that the ego is mind. I've stated so many times, sages return consciousness to mind, while fools turn mind into consciousness. Stop and contemplate exactly what this means. It sounds good, right? But what is it that we cannot see the truth in that? We can't see the truth because we can't see. I'll repeat that. We can't see the truth because we cannot see. If we're looking at it from the ego, there's no foundation there. There's no ability to do that because it doesn't have an all-access pass. It's just consciousness. Consciousness then is returned to mind. Mind has the all-access pass. It can see the past, the present, the future. It doesn't dwell in any of them, yet functions in all of them in this way. I've said several times that when I do my blessings, I bless people that are ill now and people that need help. And I shouldn't say it's more that mind blesses, and mind blesses those sentient beings that appear to have gone from the past and those sentient beings that are yet to come. I even bless the people that you will bring to the Dharma. I bless those who will have a problem in the future, or those who have suffered in the past. There's no limitation to mind, you see. Ego creates these obstructions. Not only does it not have an all-access pass, it discourages an all-access pass because it is afraid that you, mind, won't want it anymore. So it connives and tricks to make it seem that it is needed. We can use it, but we own it. It doesn't own us. That's the difference. When we practice on the second level, ego owns us, and we're constantly trying to get rid of it as if it's some kind of a piece of gum that's stuck to the bottom of your shoe on a hot day. And you're trying to pull it off. You even take a stick to try to pull it off your foot. It's not very easy. It's so sticky. Using mind in the right way, applying wisdom moment to moment to moment until such wisdom is perfected. There is no gum nor any obstruction. So how can it stick to anything? It is seen in this way by mind, not by ego, by mind. This is the difference. We're not trying to make this ego or self higher level. We're seeing right through it, cutting right through it, right to mind. It neither comes nor goes. It doesn't abide. So long as the mind holds this erroneous viewpoint, mind can never be liberated. Awakening is realizing that just this mind is the Buddha. Just this mind that you're using right now. It's not different than the Buddhas or the patriarchs. Just this mind. Awakening to the self-nature of mind awakens mind to just this mind is the Buddha mind. Mind clearly discerns arisings within mind. It is very easy. As I told Rick once, and it went straight through. To know the arising mind is the non-arising mind. So the arising mind can be known by mind, but the non-arising mind cannot be known because how would anyone know the arising mind? There's no duality there. One doesn't say, I am Gilbert, look at my driver's license, look at my passport. There is no Gilbert there. Yet this body, utilized by the function of mind, performs perfectly if it is allowed. So mind clearly discerns arisings within mind. It is very easy. We look at phenomena and noumenon, numerator and denominator. apparent, absolute, illusory, and the truth. They're not two things. They're not one. It's just mine. So why do the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas present the Dharma to dream puppets? Why do they care? It's a dream. What difference does it make? To the Dharmakaya, it matters. The Dharmakaya is the infinite Buddha body. When we refer to this, don't just let it come so easily through your mind or off your lips, the infinite Buddha body. Hold on. Hold on a moment. Contemplate that. Infinite. Of course, how could Manjushri abide anywhere? Everything is the Buddha body, but it's infinite. There is no staticness to it. Queen Shamala Devi's Lion's Roar Sutra, it talks about this, and it sees that there's static defilements. The most important being ignorance, which we talked about last week. But mind is always flowing, always moving, never abiding. The only thing it abides in is non-abiding. These are words. You have to make them yours. By you coming to this class every week, it's closer and closer to it. You're eroding the idea of this individual self. The more you hear it, the more it will work. And in fact, it is working on you, each and every one of you, in many different ways. This is just the way mind works. So the Dharmakaya is the infinite Buddha body. The suffering of the illusory sentient beings, nevertheless, presents an interest to the Buddha mind. The inconceivable is that this illusion is not our illusion. We are not confused. It is just in this way that mind is. You have to contemplate this. One must have faith to awaken from this illusion. The faith that we need must be unequivocal, steadfast, as you trust it with your life. When you practice this, you have to not have any lingering doubts. To jump into the abyss or into the void is someone that's committed to seeing this through. Someone, come hell or high water, will remain with the practice. It is not one that one holds to one day and then the next day doesn't hold to it. We practice with this kind of a firm faith. one that you trust your life to, that you would bet your life? How many situations in your life where you were somewhere that you would be willing to bet your life on something that you think is such a sure thing that you'd go, well, what do you have to offer? I'd bet my life on it. Don't do that. If you've seen all these movies, where people bet their lives and whatever, don't get tempted by this. I'm just using this as an analogy, or else we'll see you on Netflix on some cheap horror movie. But the thing is that you have to have this conviction to practice and to be clear about it. Clear enough that you would bet your life on it. Your true existence. Would you bet your life on this truth? Would you commit your practice unwaveringly? Would you dedicate this life for the benefit of others? This is the prerequisites of the faith that you need to practice. If you go, I'm on the wrong bus. I thought this was the enlightenment bus, we're not going to nirvana. We're not. Read the front of the bus, right view. That's not nirvana. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm off this bus. I'll pick it up next lifetime. I'm pointing this out because we have to have this conviction. It's not wavering, or maybe the Hindus or the Muslims, or the Jews, or even the Roman Catholics, they have a better offer. Probably not. But you have to look for it yourself and practice in the right way. If anything, Buddhism is more flexible. In some religions, if you mess up, you're eternally damned to hell. Oops, I'm sorry. I should have practiced. I didn't realize that this was for reals. But at least here we can come back. Could take a few kalpas to get back to the human realm, but at least we have a chance to redeem. Would you dedicate this life for the benefit of others? Can you put aside petty jealousies and ego? Can you see that the Dharma wisdom as your mother? Are you willing to support your mother and share your mother with others? Can you put down your desires? Put down your hatred? Reaching experiences, can you put them down and continue to climb through the fog-enshrouded mountain, vowing not to stop until Buddhahood? So when we have these realizing experiences, can you put them down? Don't think, wow, I'm enlightened now. I don't need to practice anymore. If someone truly has a realization, they'll realize how much farther they have to go, farther than they even could conceive before. It is in this way. There is a sincerity, there is a faith there to keep moving up. Shifu used to say that one has to practice as if they're climbing a fog-enshrouded mountain, putting one step in front of the other, knowing that they're climbing up. If the climb is more difficult, then you know you're not going down the mountain. You have to have the faith to continue going not knowing how long it will take you to get to the top. You just simply keep practicing. This is the faith one has to have to do this. This is the key, to have this powerful faith to do this. No hesitation, no reluctance, no looking back to see how far you've gone. The other day I was on the roof of my house making roof repairs, which everybody in my family will cringe when they know that I'm on the top of the roof. And I live on on top of a canyon, on a ridge. And so it's not just simply looking down to see how far it is to the bottom, because the bottom just keeps going. I imagine at some point I'd hit the ground, but I'd just keep rolling down to the bottom of the canyon. But when I was up there, I knew if I looked down, I would have doubts. So I just kept my mind on a single-minded purpose: repair the roof and get off the roof as quickly as you can, but be mindful in every step. I was surprised I didn't become enlightened, because all I could think of is just putting one foot in front of the other and keeping my balance. I had faith I could do that, but I didn't want to look down, or I might lose faith in what I'm doing and how far I have come. When we start to measure things in this way, we begin to lose our faith. If your practice can be unconditional, then this is the faith in mind. That is the prerequisite to entering the door of Chan. Projections then are left long behind. This is what our practice is. Hopefully, this lesson and the previous 2 lessons on projections will help you understand, so that you can truly practice in the sincere way. You have been given this year so many lessons about mind and how to practice, but here's the one that is the essence, is to have faith in that. So when you study it and you practice it, you know you don't have a fear to it. So thank you all for listening to this, and I'll take questions. Operators are standing by. Nobody has questions? Do you understand faith? Yes. Funding.
Mitofo Sensei-ji. Well, it's not so much a question is more of a an expression. The fact that a lot of this lecture today was based on faith, and during my Dharma study over the weekend on yesterday, I touched on this personally, of how it's transmuted into my life in a very profound way. That's a good word to use, I guess, at this point. Um, and that, I've had a lot of wavering. I just hit a year as being a practitioner, actually in October, right before the retreat that you ran in West Virginia. And faith, it could be in all areas of your life, but predominantly the main one is faith in, sorry to say it, but self, whether it be your constitution as a sentient being, or just knowing that you're on the right path and you're listening with your heart and the sincerity. It doesn't even have to be something that you truly have to understand at first, but just knowing that the faith within you will continue to guide you, and that will all eventually arise within you. And the more it arises within you, it makes it more solidified in the sense of that it's you don't even the doubt sensation just completely, even if it's still there a little bit, it doesn't stay there very long, and you always find your way back. And faith in Mahayana for sure is something that I hold very near and dear to myself. And I will say that there has been times even recently that I've almost kind of lost it, but there's certain sensations from the three jewels, especially the Sangha, that always bring me back. So yeah, that's just what I wanted kind of to express. So
Your comments are one that you have to, like a brain surgeon, literally, carefully excise anything that might be considered a connection to self and to ego and to you or to me. And in this way, it is a fine, subtle wisdom in which we approach this, so that you should approach it from a way of a self-cleaning oven to see and to examine. Sometimes people will write things to me, and I'll say, reread it again, and so that they can, as they begin to see it, they find that although they're using the convention of language and kind of strapped to part of that, they nevertheless are creating a crutch there that enables the ego still to come back. And so what you're saying, there's a great sincerity there. And in terms of looking at this and seeing what you can do with it, it is not what you can do, but what mind can do. And so kind of revise how you're doing that. Nothing wrong with that, because it's natural. Revise that, and then just get back on that mind horse, and go that route. Because when we challenge even the speech patterns, even the ideas of putting this down or picking this up or whatever, and we challenge that, we force the ego out of the bushes. And now it's then the game is on. We can see clearly that the ego is there. We see the ego wasn't there. It popped up like some prairie dog, and all of a sudden it's there. Hey, I'm here. And I just want to let you know you're doing a great job. We're doing all of this stuff. And then it goes down again. But you saw it. You saw it popped up there. And so you become more aware of that. That is a rising mind.
Yeah.
It's very funny because Rick is here. And these two things that I talked about Rick were the only two things that he really stuck on. and brought him through. It's so simple. No, Robert was sweep, 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 sweep. Same thing. We don't have to make it complicated. We don't have to do anything. We just have to see when it's arising. And that's where the game is afoot, is when you can can start seeing when the ego is arising. It's a catch and release program because you're just catching smoke. But it's okay. Do it in this way. You have the sincerity to practice it. I'm just giving you a tweak there and it'll work for you. Okay. So thank
Yeah.
you for your comments. Appreciate them.
Yeah, absolutely. One more thing, if I could add, I feel like I'm at a stage now where the akusala thoughts are kind of one of the main things that I'm really trying to be more mindful of. And I've definitely applied my practice to that, especially after the retreat and beforehand, but definitely after the retreat. It's definitely made a big difference in my practice. So yeah.
And it will. And it will. It is just this continuous practice
Repetition.
that pays off. Yeah, so you're doing it in the right way. It's all money in the bank, okay? You just hang in there with it. Good.
Thank
Okay, Wendy.
Thank you. My question is about faith. I'm trying to go to a 21-day retreat, but I have doubt if I can do it. So I wanted to ask you, do you think I can do it, or not to overstretch myself?
What kind of a retreat is it?
It's a Huatou retreat. Well, it's part of they have it 3 months in a temple in my hometown, actually. But I'm only the minimum they accept if you're going is 3 weeks. So any part of during that 3 months. So I kind of want to try it. But since the minimum is 3 weeks, I thought I'd ask you, do you think I can do it?
Have you gone to long retreats before?
I've done 1 week, and about 10 years ago, I believe, I've done a 21-day with Vipassana. That's when I was in shape. Now I'm kind of.
You mean physical shape? Yeah, I know what you mean, but I think you're all right. I mean, no matter what, if you can't sit, you sit in a chair, do prostrations or do slow walking meditation. If you're physically limited and you come to my retreat, I will let you, practice as long as you don't disrupt other people. So if they're not so strict, then then you shouldn't have a worry about that. I think that now even more so, you're more equipped to practice in the right way with right view. So listening to right view for an extended period of time, it will help you tremendously when you're able to overcome all of the regular obstacles and and hold on to the method with right view by mind looking at mind. And I think you're fine. This is the time for you to do that. Yes, absolutely. Go for it.
Okay, thank you. Actually, my most worry is not physical; it's mental. Because anyway, I once I came back from a 10-day Vipassana, I was in bad shape because I was trying so hard.
I don't think you need to try so hard, Wendy. I think you just need to take a rest on the cushion. Take a rest when you're eating, when you're doing your chores, when you're walking to the hall, when you're sleeping. Just take a rest all the time. Don't put pressure on yourself. Don't don't try to break through. You can't do that. The ancients said that's like running your head into an iron wall. And when you do it that way, you can't do it. So you end up becoming exhausted because you're not using right view. You're using this mind of grasping and attaining. And as a result of it, it's not going to pay off. It's like you playing the cheapest of cheapest slot machines in Las Vegas that only pays off once in a blue moon. It's not going to go. When you practice right view, why not choose the Buddha? No matter what happens, choosing the Buddha moment to moment to moment, you're guaranteed a payoff. Because just this mind is the Buddha mind. You already won. So it's good. The pressure's off of you. Congratulations. All you have to do is just practice keeping your mind calm for all that time. It's okay. So don't put any pressure on yourself. Don't try to be grasping any brass rings or whatever awards. Just if you come, you're guaranteed a prize, at least a participation trophy, which isn't bad. Okay, you don't have to win. There's no winners there. There's nobody that's going to, perform better. We each do what we can in the progress of our own practice, and it is in just this way. You'll be fine. Don't worry. Don't put any fears on yourself. When you put fear on yourself, then you mess the whole thing up. But if you just think, oh, I'm going to take a rest, not bad, then it'll work. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Sam. And don't say Sam, I am.
I do like green eggs and ham, Gilbert.
Only if you're colorblind. So yeah. Go ahead.
Amitabha, Gilbert. Thank you. I spent most of the lecture contemplating the sage's return consciousness to mind phrase. It's a phrase that I've used many times. I know you've used many times, and I was really asking myself throughout this lecture, what does that mean? What does that look like in terms of function or in terms of it actually happening? And listening to you and Matt talk about faith, and then the third patriarch you had mentioned during the lecture, it was kind of like this, like coming together of things, and it seems like it's faith and mind. It's returning to that faith and mind. So instead of using mind to turn it into consciousness, or thinking that you will figure it out, or the self will figure things out or make things work or get through samsara in a way, it's the sentient being or this consciousness letting go, it seems like, and having that faith in mind. And all those things that are the arising mind, it's just mind having faith in mind in that sense, it seems like. And that is it's a very important part of the practice, which is not only faith, it seems like, but realizing it's not you there, it's not the self doing this, it's mind in that sense. But thank you for asking to contemplate that phrase, because I think it's a very important phrase to contemplate in all of the Zen cases.
Yeah, I think that it's something that once you begin to practice this in the right way, you will see that it will make sense. It doesn't have to lead to anywhere. That's the ego trying to put a value on your time.
Mm-hmm.
But when we no longer think about time or value of the time, just simply resting the mind, then it is the contemplation of that. And then we see that these arisings of the mind are happening, and they're natural, but because they're arising in mind, we have an innate intrinsic power to be able to control those and to understand them. When we understand them, then when we go to a retreat, we can make good use of the time at a retreat, because we are simply resting the mind, and we're practicing resting the mind. Nothing else. We're not abiding in anything. We're not abiding in anywhere to give support to any thought whatsoever. Not bad. It's abiding and non-abiding. All of this all fits together. The more you practice in this way, you'll find it's like cogs on wheels, that they just start connecting, clicking in together. They're just naturally going to be coming together in that way, because that's the way it is. So it's very interesting when we see things in that way. So yeah, just keep working with it that way.
And Gilbert, may I just ask you one more quick thing? I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
This is more of how to apply the practice in a very real, I guess, a situational setting. My grandfather is towards the end of his life, and he's been recently admitted to the hospital, and he had multiple infections going on, and now he's developed MRSA, and he is suffering quite a bit. And it's strange because I do at times, I've been transferring merit with him when I'm not with him, thinking of him always, directing things like that. But I do feel sometimes like I'm falling short of how to best help or be of service to him at this time. And I was just wondering if I could ask for your advice on how to best do that.
You have to trust in your heart and understand that your heart, it is infinite as well. And when you begin to expand your transfer of merit, so it simply does not is not directed just towards one person, but it could be directed towards a class of persons, to all grandfathers that are ill or they have something, and to all people that are that way, so that you just begin to project infinitely out to cover. Eventually, you're going to cover all sentient beings, but you use this ability of the mind to not abide in any place. When we say not abide in transferring merit simply to one person. We can still do that, and I still do that. But yet, behind that transferring of merit is a myriad, uncountable others that are receiving that transfer of merit too. Mm-hmm. It is not easy for us to do that, Sam. We need to have the mind incredibly quiet, very, very still. It cannot move. It cannot have arising thoughts that are directed towards what one is doing. And it cannot have these thoughts like, oh, I think I've got it. And look, it's really working now. I can feel this or feel that. It has to be devoid of all of those measurements. It just has to go out. Beyond that, no one can tell you how to do it. But if you do it in the right way, you'll know it. And if people do it in the right way, and I talk to them, I will know that. I taught this to Santa, and she got on it right away. She figured it out, and I knew she did. And it's something that you don't need to seek my confirmation or anything. Please, people, don't give me that thing and say, did I make it or not? It isn't in that way. The time was right for me to tell her that, and I kind of hesitate to tell her anything like that, because then people will think that they need my confirmation. It isn't in that way. It's just simply I'm explaining to you that it is possible to do that, but one has to to abandon the idea of the self and simply project. Okay. So in that way, I think you'll be fine. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Any comments? Wow, a cheap crowd today. We guys are waiting.
Julia has a question in the chat, Gilbert.
Yeah, it was about whether you should have a punish a bully or turn in a bully or endure it. I think that was the question, right?
Yes.
And she's still here? Yeah, there she is. Okay. It all depends on how we do that. There was one. I'm not telling you endorsing this. I'm using this as an example. But please do not take this as your carte blanche to do this. But there was once one bodhisattva that actually took the life of a person. And they'd say, how can a bodhisattva kill a person? And when the bodhisattva explained, that this person, their karma was so bad that in this lifetime, they were going to do horrible things to people and cause many, many deaths. And so that bodhisattva wanted to put a stop to it. The reason that I bring this up is it isn't because we would say, okay, we turn the other cheek, right? And we don't let it bother us. And most of the time it's that way, but sometimes we have to stand up to people who are abusive. We stand up to them for the sake and benefit of others and for themselves, of the karma that they create, and that is so horrible that it makes it so much more difficult for them in the future. But when we stand up to a bully, then the bully will think twice about attacking somebody else, whether it's physical or mental abuse or verbal abuse or whatever. Then one has to find the way to stop them. If not you, then who? It's not always easy to do that because sometimes bullies are relying upon the fear that you're going to be punished or the fear that you're going to be embarrassed by whatever it is, or no one's going to pay attention. But you find the way to make people pay attention to you. And when you do that, you're doing a service, especially in this day and age. It's a lot easier to seek help for people who are bullying. And bullies now are beginning to find out there's consequences to what they're doing. And when they understand that there's consequences and that's it, you don't have to be like the Green Hornet going out and trying to battle everybody and rectifying things. But if there's something there and if you divest yourself from the personal part of that and understanding that you're doing this to try to stop those that will cause more and more harm. If after they're done with you, they will go to somebody else. And so you find the ways to do it legally. I'm not telling you go and take that person's life. I'm telling you to report them, stop them. Find the way to do it, whether it means, getting legal authorities or an order against them, some kind of restraining order or whatever. Then you stand up to them, let them know that there is a cost for what they're doing. But again, remember that it's not an easy thing, and that's what bullies are banking on, is no one's going to step up and do it. But if they bullied you, they might have bullied others, and then there's strength in numbers. So good luck with that. Use your wisdom and your compassion, don't use anger or revenge, but use wisdom to stop the bully. So hopefully that will help you. There's so many different variations of bullies. I'm only speaking in a very general tone about bullies themselves. Okay, so that would be my answer. Anything else? Shloka?
Amitofu, Gilbert. I just wanted to ask about the projection of suffering, because I've just been trying to understand what is suffering in samsara, my own and that of others, this suffering that mind has compassion for. So could you say a little bit about that, please?
Well, the suffering comes from ignorance. That was from the laws of dependent origination. And the first one is ignorance. And it is because we do not understand this world. We believe that which is occurring in this dream is real. It's difficult for us to understand that it's not real because it seems like we're swimming against the current. And we actually are swimming against the current of the power of habitual tendencies. And all the masters talk about this in their treatises. They talk about these habitual tendencies that keep us from being able to penetrate through. But when we go with the flow of the suffering, we just enhance the suffering. We ensure that we will suffer in the future. If we are a little child and we stub our toe and we are crying and crying because of our toe, even after the pain is gone, the suffering still remains. And it's a learned trait. It doesn't belong to us, doesn't belong to our personality. It is something that we've learned along the way, that if this happens or there is pain, there's suffering. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way, but we believe it in that way. If our body is hurting, of course we feel the pain. There's no escape from the pain in terms of that, but it is not the pain that harms us. It is the suffering for the pain. The suffering of how long will this happen? How long can I endure this pain? When will it stop? All of these things are coming up from the idea of the ego, and the ego is putting a illusory value on the quality of life based on that. And so when the people are that way, even the bully, they're suffering, and they want other people to suffer with them. They don't know, they feel so twisted that if they make other people suffer, then their suffering will go away, which is like putting gasoline on a fire, hoping that the liquid will douse the flame. But it won't do it in that way. This is ignorance that we do, the first of the 12 nidana, but it is the essential one. And when we understand that, we understand that this is a static defilement, a very entrenched one. Once we understand the ignorance one, all of the other nidanas will be understood. Once we destroy that, we destroy the suffering. The suffering is just a state of mind. It is not something real. That's why I was using these examples of the early patriarchs, conversations saying, bring it to me, bring me your suffering. But you cannot find your suffering. You say, well, I'm not suffering right now. Or I'm suffering, but it's hard for someone to manifest that as it is some form of a concrete thing. Okay, somebody has a money problem, a family problem, a relationship problem of whatever kind. There's so many problems that can come up in this life, and it's like the kind of the play on words of life is a beach, and then you die. And if we live in this way, then we see, and obviously the word isn't beach, but if we see things in this way, then the only thing I would say is that, and then you live again to suffer again until you figure that the suffering is non-existent. That which is being believed to have a suffering is not existent. If something is created by the mind, it can be uncreated by the mind. That's an important thing. It's one of those great milestones that can provide liberation. I remember one of my major milestones in my life was when I realized, I was a naughty kid when I was young, when I realized that I could outrun my father. Now that may not seem like a great thing, but it certainly has lessens the impact on your bottom if you can outrun him. And I realized that my father, he would cool down very quickly. As long as I just had to stay out of his range, I would be okay. This is very mundane and kind of superficial, but it goes to the point that when we understand that suffering is an option, we don't need that option. We don't have to do that. That is something that is learned, but it isn't something that comes with the package equipped. It comes pre-equipped with previous habitual tendencies from past lives. But if we let those go, all of that pre-equipment, we can strip them off because it's not real. When we see things in this way, it changes the way we look at things. Once we understand it in this way, it really makes a big difference. Okay? So hopefully that will help you. No.
Thank you so much.
Or you can take my 6-month class on suffering. Then you'll really suffer. So, okay. Anything else? No? Okay. Well, suffering is me realizing that I thought I was leaving on Wednesday and I'm leaving tomorrow night. And not really suffering, but it just means I have to kick up my effort to get ready. So we'll see how that goes. So no, there will be guest lecturers. Please tune in and support them. This is part of the Sangha and people that are coming up and going to present the Dharma, and it's something that's important to support them, so that they have an audience. You learn from someone else, and this is a great way for us all to practice and create a sangha to support each other. It's very, very important. There's not that many of us, when you think about it, that really have an idea of what the practice, how to practice in this way, this right view. So let's all stay together with all of this. So thank you very much. I will see you a little bit later on in the year. You all take care.
Have a safe trip.